Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And wow, 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 am I excited. I have two unbelievably special guests on with me today. I want to welcome my friends, Mark Victor Hansen and Crystal Dwyer Hansen, his beautiful wife. Did I get all that right?
You got all that right. That was a mouthful.
That was. I think that was what was making me more nervous than anything is nailing your names properly. So listen, I want to thank you guys for taking the time. I know you got up extra early out there in Arizona to be on here today. So very, very grateful.
You're worth it, Ken.
So I created this show to help people have a breakthrough in life. As you guys know, you've written many books, both of you, and created courses and all kinds of fun stuff to help people have a breakthrough in life. Literally, this is your show. So let's start out, if you don't mind, just quickly kind of tell everybody where you were both born and raised.
Ladies first.
Okay, I was born in Idaho Falls, Idaho, in the Northwest, Intermountain West. So yeah, I grew up in a small town of 40,000 people, family of 9 children. Wow. So yeah, it was a wonderful way, a wonderful socialization. You kind of learn everything when you're from a big family like that. You really learn how to get by, how to create alliances, so many things. I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was really an amazing way to grow up.
So you're just a small town girl.
Just a small town girl.
Love it.
I grew up in an industrial town not terribly far from you, Waukegan, Illinois. My daddy and mommy were Danish immigrants, and daddy had a little Danish bakery who he hoped any one of my 3 brothers or I, the 4 of us, would take over. And I didn't know what a white glove guy was, but I wanted to grow up and be one, and I think I did it.
Waukegan is where the Naval Academy is.
That's right. It's Great Lakes. As a matter of fact, my dad made bread for the Navy base, and when I was 16 and a rock star, so to speak, I owned a little group called the Messengers. We played at Great Lakes Navy base on a lot of nights.
Wow!
I remember one night, yeah, it was just amazing.
My younger brother graduated from there, and his son, my nephew, just recently graduated from Great Lakes. So
yeah, no,
wow, congratulations.
Crystal and I were just out there at a funeral, and I drove her by it, and if you've never been there, it's almost endless. It goes for miles and miles. I mean, as all good military bases should.
Yeah, it's massive. Yeah. So both of you got into being authors, and exceptional authors, I might add. In case there is anyone watching this or listening that might be from another planet and they haven't heard of Chicken Soup for the Soul, you are the co-creator, Mark, of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. I'd like to hear just a little bit about that. Where in the world did that idea come from? How did that go down?
Well, Jack and I created it. I was doing all these little stories that, touch your heart and soul. And we thought, wow, we came up with a great title, Chicken Soup, because chicken soup is what grandma or mom gave you if you're sick to get well. And we thought back in the 90s that the nation was hurting and painful after the crash of 74. So we thought, wow, this would be cool. We didn't realize it was for the whole world. And now we sold 500 million books, and they're still rocking, and there's going to be movies coming out, and we did a major TV show. And so we've had an exhilarating ride, having sold that many books and $1 billion worth of licensed products. It has been wonderful. And now what we're doing we've created a whole new book. This is the first reader's copy that no one's ever seen before, but this is it. And you're going to show a copy of it anyhow that Crystal and I have written. And we think it's going to transcend and go break walls beyond what we've done already. There's a copy of
it. There's the front cover of it right there.
Called Ask the Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny, because we think everybody is intrinsically born with a destiny that's great. And what we've found as we travel around is that most people aren't asking enough. And I'll let Crystal talk to that if she wants to.
And I before that, I would like to ask everybody watching right now to please share this video out. There's going to be unbelievable value delivered today. So share this out. Do not be stingy.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's great. We love to share.
Yes.
Mm.
So yeah, so talk a little bit about that, Crystal, if you would.
So, people ask us, why did we write a book called Ask? And isn't it something people do naturally? And it's something we are all naturally born with, but it kind of gets knocked out of us in a way. Children are great askers. They're never afraid to ask because they just haven't had enough of those experiences in life where they're shut down or dismissed. And so over time, we stop asking as adults, and we don't want to impose on anyone. There are a number of reasons that we stop asking. In fact, we talk about the 7 roadblocks to asking in the book and really drill down on those because it's so important to overcome those, because asking, we say it's the universal language to which you can have a solution, illumination, an answer delivered. And it's really the only way to have that happen. And it seems like such a simple concept, but people really don't do it enough. We did 26 interviews for this book. We interviewed the master askers. We did a lot of research on the book. And the truth of it is people don't ask enough. They think they will be perceived as being stupid or something like that. And actually the research shows that it's just the opposite. People who ask more questions are actually more likable. Harvard's done a couple of studies on this. Yeah. So it's exciting. And even in dating situations where, if you're the type of person who asks more questions and more deep and probing questions, you will be more likely to get a second date and have a better assessment of the date, essentially.
This is absolutely one of my favorite topics. I love this because I truly believe you're correct that people don't ask enough questions.
Well, here's what we've discovered. We've found people that are likable, brilliant, talented, educated, professional, but they ask, and as a result, they don't grow enough and they don't fulfill their destiny. And so we say, look, there are 3 ways to ask. You ask yourself, you ask others, and you ask God. It's pretty much limited to that. And then just one quick example of that is we have a great friend now named Jim Stovall. And Stovall at 19 years old is being recruited into being an NFL superstar. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. They hire him, so to speak. He takes physical, and they said, whoa, sorry to tell you this, but you're going to be blind and permanently blind in 6 months. And it just devastates him. Now he's sort of self-incarcerated in a little 9 by 12 room, and he's got 3 things in a phone with him. He's got a radio, he's got a telephone and a television. Now, he used to love to watch thrillers on TV, but now he can't see when somebody throws a right hook. Yeah. His parents said, look, you're really despondent, disconsolate, depressed. Why don't you go to a blind meeting and see if they can't cheer you up? Well, he goes to a blind meeting, and it's more people arguing about and hating being blind because they feel limited and incarcerated. So he sits next to this woman who's also blind, and she's a legal secretary, and he says, boy, somebody ought to do something about that. Well, she nudges him in the elbow and says, well, we're somebody, and we're going to do something about it. That was the pivotal experience in Jim's life, because what he did is he said, wow, what if there was a thing called narrative TV? And they created narrative TV, and now those of us that are sighted don't use it, but 14 million Americans pay $10 a month to have narrative TV, and you never heard of it. And then all of a sudden, you remember the great name Charlie Tremendous Jones writes me a letter and said, you got to read this book. Well, he wrote a book called The Ultimate Gift. I read it and I said, this has got to be a movie. Yeah. And he made a movie that was a super hit, made $100 million. He had everybody famous in it, like James Garner and Raquel Welch, and on and on. And he says, now, I write books that I can't read, and I make movies that I can't watch. And what we're saying is that everybody's going to have obstacles, and your job is to overcome it by asking the right questions. So you go over, under, around, or through to get to the other side to the answer.
Yeah, that one question for him was just so pivotal because he was really just complaining at the meeting. And so she just looked at him and said, well, why aren't you and I the ones to change this? And so it was just a life-changing. And that's the thing about questions. They can really completely pivot your life. And it's funny because when we're stuck, our tendency is to just stop asking. We just get stuck in our fear, and we sit there and we shake and we worry. And Asking is literally a roadway, a pathway out of that. That's why we call it like the bridge, because it becomes a bridge from your dreams and hopes to your literally your destiny. So it's so amazing.
But I have a real life situation here. Let me ask you guys this.
Okay.
So I'm sitting here, yeah, I can't wait to hear this answer. So I think that you're 1000% correct.
Thank
you. I'm interviewing you and I still have this fear of OMG, what if I ask them the wrong questions or I ask a dumb question, right? Because we're programmed as kids to don't ask questions, or you're asking too many questions and all of that. So how do you get somebody to break free from that fear? Because I think it's a fear that stops people from asking questions because they may be looked at as stupid questions.
It is a fear. And I think the important thing is to really break it down. We do this more deeply in the book, and it takes a little work. And that's why we wrote about it. It's like, why write a whole book on ask? But it's so worthy of a book, because you need to dig deep. And that's why, so the 3 channels through which we say to ask are ask yourself, ask others, and ask God. Mark was mentioning that. Yeah. And the first place you always start is those questions to yourself. Why? I would say to you, Ken, why do you have that fear? What inside of you, what experience did you have that makes you feel inconfident or concerned about that? Right. And that journey inside ourselves, that deeper journey, which is what my work is all about as a life transformational life coach and clinical hypnotherapist. I'm all about the inner work. And that's why the self-questioning, the questions of asking yourself are so critical in every part of your life. When you are stuck, we have several types of questions, self-intervention questions, holding up the mirror questions, all those things we go through in the book. Because if you just start asking those questions, it's like you're taking one step and another step and another step, and you're moving down that pathway toward your destiny, toward what it is you really want. And it's so wonderful to know that you have this tool. It's already inside of you. It's just kind of lying dormant. But if you learn to use it, everything changes. Like literally everything in your life will change if you can start to deploy this amazing tool.
And let me just add to that and say, when I trained in the life insurance business and real estate business and financial, I always said, if you don't believe you got permission to ask, all you got to do is believe that I believe you got permission and you got permission. And we'd say, instead of asking for $100,000 life insurance policy, ask them to buy $1 million because I've already got a mink. And what happens is somebody just came on right now and said they'd like to have us on their podcast, and we'd love to do that, because what we're doing right now is our publisher came to us and we were ready not to do any of these until the book came out on April 28th, because this is live. We can talk about that. And then suddenly the publisher said, no, you got to sell 20,000 copies before April 28th to even get in the listing at Amazon, which controls 80% of the book market today.
Right.
I'm the only guy who ever melted on Amazon. So I thought, wow, I could do this again. So we asked you, and now we've got this guy asking us, because the law of attraction is that birds of a feather flock together. And once you put it out, it comes back. It's sort of like the Doppler effect. Yeah. And we think asking is, what if we got 100% of people asking to fulfill their destiny? Yeah. Well, then the world could work.
I'm absolutely I in total agreement, and I loved your answer to that question. So it is, I think it does go back to something that happened maybe in someone's life, or that causes them to fear asking for. I mean, I've trained salespeople, and I'm like, dude, you're not asking for the sale. Like, they're not just going to say, hey, can I please buy from you? You have to ask.
Right. Exactly. And people are so afraid of that. And it comes back to that inner stuff. What I say is, when I work with people, I do mind excavation. And because you really need to dig, if you want to move forward in your life, you cannot, we're all kind of glazing over this stuff that's like, existing underneath the surface of the subconscious mind. And to move forward, I do excavation projects. We do mind excavation and start to pull that out and kind of look at it in the light of day and say, I have this great story where I was building a new house. I used to do a lot of real estate, and so I was building one of my big house projects, and we couldn't dig this foundation because my builder called me and he's like, we've got something really hard in the ground. We're going to have to stop the foundation. I was like, oh no. He goes, we're going to have to do a hard dig. And I was like, what's that? He goes, well, we got to get the big diggers. We got to dig deeper. And I go, oh shoot, I just want to build this beautiful house. Can we just skip over that part? And he's like, no, we're not going to skip over that part. So I run over there when my daughters were little, and they're like, we're going to dig too, Mommy. So they had their little pails and shovels. Yeah. And by the time we get there, there's this growing pile of stuff. And then so my girls and I got over and looked at inside this mound, and we start seeing all this really cool stuff. They had, there was a famous historical house that was on this property. And when they cleared the lots and did a golf course over the top of it many years before, decades before, they just buried everything. Well, now then they changed it, closed the golf course and sold these lots out. So we're digging out this history. And, some of it was really beautiful. We actually found these beautiful European tiles that were really thick and expensively made. So we started gathering those and saving them. We washed them off. We actually integrated them into the house design. But then there were other things that were cracked and broken, and like an entire pallet of this green glazed Italian roof tile. We had to throw that away. And so it's the same thing when we do an inner excavation. We want to bring everything out in the light of day, examine it, and say, what are the beautiful treasures I want to keep? That's the wisdom. That's my wisdom going forward. What's the stuff I need to get rid of? The old negative, dirty, yucky emotions that are holding me back from my greatest potential, right? And so it's just such a beautiful thing. And we do that by asking and going deep and digging. It's just really, really cool.
And so in the new book, Ask, let me throw it back up on the screen here. The Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny. In this book, you guys cover this stuff, the digging in and uncovering what's holding you back. And
we also, one of our favorite parts, Mark and I love this, and are the stories. So we, when you tell stories, he's the story guy and he's the greatest example of this, but we learn through each other's stories, right?
Yep.
It's like when you hear a story, you're experiencing those things a little bit as if you might have experienced. So it's a fast way of learning. So we got these master askers, and we go way back, like into their childhood, not just, this like, oh, you're a billionaire. How'd you get, well, it's like, how did that journey start when you were little? This starts when you're young, or it starts along the way somewhere where you were mentored by someone and learn to ask. And so those stories are fascinating. What to do, how to ask, and what not to do in asking. Like Rita, do you want to tell Rita's? Well,
I was thinking I was going to tell Peter Guber, because Peter Guber is a giant Titan mogul superstar and our dear friend, actually, fortuitously. And when he's a little kid, he's shoveling snow, and suddenly all the neighbors want him to do it. He's a poor kid. And so he hires all the other kids to do it. He calls that enterprise value. Well, he gets to college and he's got to learn to ask. And he says, look, all these kids are rich here except me. I got to ask myself, how do I get to be rich too and have money? Well, what is it that they need that no one's supplying? And he said they hate to go get their laundry done. They hate to get their dry cleaning. Yeah. So he got a dry cleaner to take it and get 50 off. He got a dry and then give him 20 of it. Yeah. Laundry to do it. He got 17 kids to go to all the colleges and started to make a fortune while he was in college. Well, that went well. And then he kept asking. That's a critical thing. He said, well, what do you want to do? And every one of them, because there was a rich school in New York City, Columbia, they said, well, this is 1962, so this isn't yesterday. He says, what do you guys and ladies want to do? He said, well, we all want to go to Europe during the summer. So he goes to 12 different travel companies. Now, he created in his mind Priceline before it came. He got so many coupons that he, at 21 years old, he marries the woman he's still married to, who's our dear friend. Her real name's Linda, but she goes by Tara. Anyhow, he takes her on a honeymoon literally around the world for free as they graduate before he goes on to law school and goes on to end up being chairman of Sony, make 50 Academy Award movies that you and I know, like Rocky and Batman and Rain Man and on and on. And then we're sitting with him at dinner once, and I asked Peter recently, I said, this is like 5 years ago now. I said, well, what have you done lately? He said, well, today I bought a little sports team. I said, really? And then my dream was someday, I asked myself, how am I going to grow up and be a millionaire? I thought, if you ever had $1 million, you were home. He said, I bought a little sports team. I said, really? What's the name? He said, Golden State Warriors. I said, wait, and how much did that cost? He said, I wrote a check for $170 million. Well, today it's worth $3.8 billion. I mean, the guy he is a magnet for asking exactly the laser beam right question. And he came out of nowhere with nothing, with dirt poor parents, and just decided, hey, I'm going to ask myself, how do I become wealthy? How do I create a massive value add for everybody everywhere? And then I get the people to do the work, what he calls enterprise value. How do I create enterprise value?
I love that story. So a question for you guys, both of you, did you grow up in what you would call wealthy families or
So I grew up, my dad was a very successful attorney.
okay.
So you know, like thinking and asking questions was really fostered in our home. I mean, but we weren't really spoiled. I mean, it's hard to be spoiled when you're one of 9 children. My parents were both raised on, you know, my dad was raised on a big farm. So they both had this really pioneering spirit, like, you need to work hard. I had to go weed gardens and do all this other stuff before I got to go hop on my bike and go with my friends. But you learn so much from that. Yeah. So it was I had to change diapers and fix food for my younger siblings. There were no prima donnas in as much as my dad was successful in his own right, and we lived in a small town, it was a nice way to grow up. We had a ton of responsibility, like unbelievable. Yeah. So, and then Mark, I'll let you speak for your childhood.
Starting at 9 years old, I had to fund all my own clothes and figure out how to work. So I desperately wanted a bicycle, kept asking my dad, saying, Dad, please, let me have a bike. And he said, well, you're 21, you'll be independent, you can do it that way. I got him down to 16. And the bike was, you know, the first, there were, in 1957, there were no low handlebar racing bicycles in America. And I had a visualizing picture on the wall that said, ride a wheel on Sheffield steel. And today's dollars would be like $4,700 for that kind of bike. And he was convinced I couldn't earn it, but I'm reading Boy Scout Life. I'm shoveling neighbors' lawns and washing windows and all that, but that's not making enough. So Boy Scout Life said, you know, you can sell greeting cards on consignment. So I asked myself, what's consignment mean? So I went back to my dictionary, looked up consignment. It says it means you get it free and you got to pay for it later. I said, wow, I can afford that. So my mother was a great saleswoman. She said, look, you got to smile real big at every one of our neighbors. Just knock at the door on Saturday morning and go around the neighborhood. Well, she thought I would do it a little bit, but now I teach in sales and marketing, do total market penetration, and I ask everybody to buy. I went up to our little neighbors and I said, I'm earning my own bicycle. Would you like to invest in 1 box Christmas cards or 2? Well, all the sweet little Danish ladies, we lived in little Denmark, Waukegan, all bought. But then I went to bigger and bigger things because once I felt successful, that's what asking is about. Your earlier question about asking is that once you really learn, you start metaphorically having mental biceps and triceps, feeling your strength and vim, vigor, vitality, and confidence. It blooms, right? So you can have a little success, you can have bigger and bigger successes. But I literally sold the most greeting cards ever, and Gibson greeting. And then 30 years later, they come back to me and say, you know, Chicken Soup's working, and I understand you do the licensing. We want to do it, and would you write them? And I actually wrote them, and we sold 897,000 boxes of Christmas cards through grocery stores. Later, so it just shows everything is a cycle.
Isn't that crazy?
You know,
oh my gosh,
I didn't know I'd ever do that. And then, you know, Jack said, can I at least look at the cards you're writing and putting my name on? I said, yeah, you can even edit them if you want, but you can't change them much because I'm writing them really fast and they're due now. You know?
Oh my gosh.
Deadlines.
Oh boy, deadlines.
So you guys decided along, you know, when I wrote my book, there was kind of this catalyst, this moment in life that I'm like, I got to write a book. And I was 48. So I started later in life. So, but you guys decided to write this book, and I know you both have written other obviously other books, many other books. But what was it about? I mean, you were sitting on the veranda having a glass of wine and just
That's a good question. It is a good question. You know, we started to notice, Ken, this thing that Mark sort of referred to a little bit earlier, that, okay, so we get to meet so many cool people, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, most of them are smart, talented, likable. They want good things in their life. They want great things. They have big dreams. And there are sort of like two groups of people, the ones who are getting what they want, and the ones who, in spite of having kind of the same qualities, are not getting that same success or achievement. So we're like, what is it? You know, and we started noticing this again and again. And the ones who get what they want are the ones who have been mentored or know how just to be the boldest askers.
Yeah.
And so then we started like just sharing stories about that. Like, see, they ask, they know how to ask. And just like the Peter Guber thing, I mean, he wasn't afraid to ask and just keep asking, like, what is it that you want? What can I provide for you? What, you know, they're fearless askers. And like Mark said, the more you ask, the bolder you become, the more you practice this. So we said, we have to write this. And then the cutest thing happened. We were in Hawaii when we kind of were making that decision, and our little grandson had just gotten a gizmo watch that is for his own protection. He's 6 years old. He thought it was so cool because you can call on it, but it's only like 6 people that he could call: his grandparents, his parents, in case, you know, an emergency. So
aunties, uncles.
So Mark gets this call, and it's like, Everett's gizmo watch. So we had to tell him that. It's just so cute.
Wow.
So I obviously answered the cell phone. I said, hello? He said, Grampy? I said, yes. He said, are you still writing books? I said, yes. He said, like the Chicken Soup for the Soul book? I said, yes. Said, you know, I'm 6 years old. I said, yes. I said, I get goosebumps telling you this. I
He's
said,
so cute.
Can I write a book with you? And they go, yes.
So sincere.
And so we decided to put his story in first because
oh my God,
he has an innocence. He's not shut down at all. This kid is actually, our little grandson is a prodigy. And I know it's every grandparent says my kid's the smartest
we
and
all
the
have
best.
The best grandkids,
yeah,
right?
but this kid is good looking, smart, athletic,
our kids.
and he's got talents that just exude out of him. But he said, I want to read all your books. And I said, oh boy, that's a big assignment, kid. And he's reading, he'll do it. There's 308 books I've written so far that are bestsellers. So
wow.
It's way beyond what, you know, but being a little kid, he's reading at a 4th and 5th grade level already because we have a reading environment, and our kids have the same thing. Everybody in our family, thank God, is a reader. And we think reading expands you, reading enlarges you, reading gets you out of bias, reading gets you out of prejudice, reading gets you to be a bigger, better, stronger, wiser, smarter person.
Totally agree with you. 1,000%. That is absolutely amazing. So his story is the first story in the book.
Of course.
Then
the second story is she wrote a parable, which I'll let her talk to. That just, I'll just tell you, our agent. I'll just preface it with one thing. Our agent read it and said, oh my gosh, this is like, I don't know if you've read The Alchemist yet, which has sold 150 million copies of one book. Right?
I have not read. I've heard of it. I've never read The Alchemist.
It's important. It's one of those classic books that you got to read and you'll love it. But she wrote the thing that'll eclipse that, I believe.
Well,
I got to hear this.
Well, okay. So I wrote this thing. I thought, you know, people learn through stories, right? Mark and I obviously love the power of stories.
Yeah.
And so I was like, why don't we start this with a fable? And, you know, so it just started coming to me. So I wrote the fable of Michaela, and Michaela is this girl, this young woman that lives in the time of kings and queens. And she starts off in this really bad place where she's lost everything. The parents she loves so much have died. Her home's been taken away from her by the bill collectors. And she's literally living in a grove of trees. And then one night, after this hard day's work, she's just weary. She falls into bed, falls asleep, and has this incredible dream. And the dream reveals to her, this being comes to her and teaches her, shows her the asking bridge and how Most people miss the asking bridge. She got to see this vision. But if you're aware of the asking bridge and you start to ask and never stop asking, your whole life will change. And so she wakes up the next morning just a tiny bit different. She was hopeless. She had given up, and it just sort of lit a tiny spark inside of her. Wow. So then as she went to the rock quarry where she works, just that little shift started to change. She started to notice, she started to ask, so the whole thing goes on, but it's really kind of magical because in some ways it's every woman and every man's story. We all get to that place in our lives sometimes where it seems like we're just hauling heavy rocks and nothing's going anywhere and we don't have hope, right? We're all humans. Human experience is universal. Yeah. And so her asking journey, it's just this beautiful thing. And she has a series of dreams. It's magical. But if you think about it, life is magical. Yeah. I mean, if you really start to examine your life, like when things have happened that shouldn't have happened, life is so magical if we wake up to those possibilities. And that's what we're trying to teach people and share with people, like embrace the magic of life, connect with other people. That's one of the beautiful things that we talk about in the book. People are like too isolated to ask. It's called Too Isolated to Ask, ? Sometimes we're too isolated to ask. That's why I'm glad we're doing these interviews and reaching people this way, because I think people are just stuck behind their computers and we're so afraid to connect with each other in a real way. And it's just so important to be one another's resource and not be afraid to be each other's resource, right?
Yep.
That's what we're here for. And we shouldn't be scared of doing that for each other, with each other. And when you start to do that, like life becomes magical. It's so cool.
I'm sitting here like I'm thinking of a time when my company was still somewhat new, and I had a handful of employees, and one of the gentlemen that worked for me, this big fella, comes walking into my office and he says, boss, there's a guy peeking in the windows of your SUV out in the parking lot. And I'm like, well, tell him to get the heck out of here. And he goes, well, I would, but he has it blocked with his tow truck. I think he's getting ready to take your car. I'm like, and you know, at that moment, I was like, oh my God, no, this is not happening. And, you know, getting a car repossessed in front of employees, I don't recommend. So, but you know,
humiliation.
Oh, it was horrible. But you know, I didn't think at the time, and you guys are making me think, like, I just wasn't asking the right question. Right. Or maybe I wasn't asking them often enough, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. Well, you got to ask the right question at the right time to the right person to get the right result right now. And I had this similar experience. I'm bankrupt and upside down, 1974, and I tried to be Buckminster Fuller. I was my graduate school teacher, building geodesic domes, doing what he did, and I blew that out, which was my worst experience. But you can only see that from a longer view, because it got me out of what I shouldn't be doing and into what I should be doing, which is what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And
tell them the book you had to check out.
Yeah, so I had to check a book out of the library, How to Go Bankrupt by Yourself. It's 1973.
You didn't even have money to pay the attorney.
Yeah, I'm on the court steps in East Long Island, New York, and the guy says, for $300, I'll get you bankrupt. I said, buddy, if I had $300, I wouldn't be bankrupt. They took everything, and it was anyhow. So, you know, I'm starting to be a speaker, and now suddenly I got to travel, and I have a credit card, and the travel ticket then was more than $500 limit. It was like $750.
Yeah.
They called out my name, and I'm on the airplane shaking, going, "Oh my God, they're going to kick me off the airplane before it takes off." The card. Back then, it wasn't instant transaction. We didn't have AI yet, artificial intelligence, supercomputing. So it was all done, you know. And all they said is that we've upgraded your seat. And I went, oh, well, thank you very much. That's very nice of you. You know, and then by the way, I did the talk, sold enough. I had a first book out called Stand Up, Speak Out and Win that I did with Keith DeGreen. And you know, that year I sold 20,000 at $10 each, took in 200,000. So I immediately went to I think it was a MasterCard office and paid cash so I could fly home safely. It was just it was amazing. I was living beyond hand to mouth. I was living second to second.
And that's what's cool about stories, right? I have 17 and a half years of recovery from alcohol, and I'm very, very blessed.
Congratulations. God bless.
Yeah. And so, I learned that, it's through, first off, surrender, right? Surrender was huge for me, but then getting into the question asking, and you guys have, like, I think this book is going to outsell the Bible. I appreciate
that, but what we really feel in our hearts, we can envision, like, every person who gets this and reads it is going to be changed inside, and that's what matters. Like, that's important. We want to bring everybody along with us into a better place of happiness, hope, possibility.
Yeah.
So let me talk to the sales, because the book, we're going to sell 20,000. And we talked to you earlier when it was your idea triggering our idea here, is that what we've decided is that everybody, if somebody will go to Amazon.com and buy 10 of our books right now and send a note to reception at Mark Victor Hansen, reception at Mark Victor Hansen, we will personally sign book plates to the 10 people that you want. So it's,
that you want to gift the books to, because we want to spread, sort of share the love and make sure the people you love get the book, and we'll do a personalized book plate and send them to you. If you just send us the receipt to reception@markvictorhansen.com. And
I'm typing that in right now. Just
okay. And then if they want to go to 100 books, we're doing something that we don't know any other author has done. And we've had experience doing this with we raise funds to save the place we live here at McDowell Mountain in Scottsdale, Arizona, by having a fundraiser. So we said everybody who buys 100 books, which is like an investment of about $2,100 maybe, and sends that same thing, reception@markvictorhansen.com.
Send the receipt of it.
The receipt of it, then to Amazon. Now, they got to do it now. They not only get 1-day private seminar with Crystal and Mark, and you get to ask us anything you want. We'll teach all the principles in depth and tell the stories. But then we're also going to come to our spectacular house here at the mountaintop, which has city lights, and we're surrounded by 100 hills. It's really
for dinner.
Quite special.
Wow. Seminar,
I don't know anybody trying to sell books ever said, "Well, come to our house for dinner." I mean,
that is so amazing. And Mark, are you cooking?
No. By the way, I am socializing.
He makes good breakfast.
I make a mean breakfast. The fact is, because we've had an experience of having that kind of crowd of people here.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Just glad handing everyone. We'll have it well catered. I promise you.
I'm sure.
You're coming. I mean, so they get to meet you and us.
Right. And it'll just be a beautiful day of just immersing ourselves. I'm going to do some closed eye stuff, because we're going to do a little mind excavation for everyone together. We're going to work on some stuff together. It's going to be deep and awesome and wonderful, and just sort of launch us for the next decade. So we're super excited about that, you guys. So get the 100 books, share them with your clients or friends or whatever. It's just like paying it forward, really. And
there's the book. Somebody just asked what the book title is. So I want to make sure I put that up there.
The book is Ask, and it's on Amazon for pre-order right now. And this is for people who buy in the pre-order stage, because it's tricky. The book market, you have to get a lot of orders in the pre-order, or Amazon won't stock. They won't stock enough of the books so that people can. It's complicated, but anyhow, that's what we want to get it in the pre-order stage, because we want to make sure this book lasts out there so people can find it and get it for a long time and have that support for a long, long time. So
we did the same thing with chicken, and we have a story in a book by my friend Charlie Green, who said before the book got published, we had 144 publishers turn us down, and I had no better sense than to hold up, a manuscript and say, "Look, would everyone stand up? I want you to pray. I want you to see."
Well, first of all, he was in a church speaking, and so a friend of ours sent us this story. We did include it in the book. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead. You tell the story.
Yeah, it's such a cute story, because it speaks to Mark's fearless ability to ask for what he wants. So no one would read the book. Like, literally, they shopped, no publisher. They were shopping it around to all these publishers. They're like, no. This is
our agent fired us. Our agent.
Which book are we talking about?
The chicken soup for the soul. This is an unbelievable.
Jeez. Hold it. Your first agent fired you?
Yeah, he lives in Ohio, by the way. I should probably not mention his name, but he's in Ohio.
His address. I'll go see if he's homeless right now.
Well, so this is such he's talk about regrets, but here's the thing.
He's lost millions of dollars, I'll tell you that.
Oh, yeah. The important thing that I want the listeners to understand is just because you get turned down once, twice, 3 times, 100 times, don't stop asking, because they got turned down by 144 different publishers. So, and people were like literally saying, this will never work. No one wants these short little stories. So Mark gets booked at a church. He has the manuscript. He stands up and he says, I'm asking you all to pray with me that this will be a #1 bestseller. And I'm also asking you to put your credit card down on this form and buy the book, even though it's not out yet. And when we get it published, I'll send you one. And people did it.
Yeah, we had a little, we handed out to everybody. And it was a big, big church in Kansas City and a great minister who liked us. And
oh my gosh.
It took us to get 20,000 pre-orders before he could sell the book. Now, Jack, as you know, went to Harvard, and Dr. Ken Blanchard and Spencer Johnson were there. And Ken, had pre-sold. He had to sell 40,000 copies of 1 Minute Manager. I later wrote 1 Minute Millionaire and got his permission, and Ken is our dear friend and a great parabolist himself. I don't want to take that away, but he had said, look, I had to sell 40,000 copies of 1 Minute Manager. So I thought, well, we got to sell 20,000 at least. And so we gathered 20,000 orders. Now we're at the same place again, which is sort of, it's a spiritual thing for us, I guess, that we got to always go over this little hump of selling the first 20,000 ourselves.
Right. But, when you appeal to people with a question, with a heartfelt request, I think people really do want to help you. I mean, if you ask, and by and large, and if those, not everyone will, but just keep asking, keep being sincere, offer value back. I mean, these are some of the things we talk about in the book, but also if you think people are just going to step up and help you without asking, research shows they won't. Mm-hmm. It's not that some people sit back and think, oh, you should see that I'm suffering. You should see that I need help. You should figure it out. People don't. They don't want to intervene. They don't want to, intrude. Yeah. So you have to ask. But once you ask, they're much more willing. They're 80% more willing to help you if you ask.
And sometimes it requires asking more than once.
It does.
It does. With the same person.
Ken, I'm so glad you said that. There's a story that's just really quickly in the book about Rita Davenport. And she was a superstar broadcast journalist, had a cooking show in Phoenix. She was hot at the time.
First one.
Yeah. And she had Julia, really famous chefs on. She knew in her heart this was a good thing. She could build this to something bigger. So she had this great idea. She took it to the corporate of the station owner, the corporate owner of the station she worked for. And she said, we need to do a food network. This is getting such rave reviews. My show is always, it's at the top of the charts, blah, blah, blah. And she asked the guy and he goes, no, that's never going to work. No one would want to look at food all day long. I mean, it works for an hour, Rita. That will never work. And so she just kind of walked out with her tail between her legs, never asked again. Incidentally, there was a guy from the other station watching her every day. Literally, he would lock himself in the room, and she had friends over there, and they said, Rita, he's obsessed with you. We can't even talk to him when he's studying your show. He took her show idea. He took it. What's the guy's name? I'm forgetting it. He's the guy that started the Food Network. He took Rita's exact idea, turned it into, he built it up and sold it for $3 billion. So that $3 billion mistake Rita made for not just what you said, Ken. Don't stop asking. When you know something in your heart, keep pushing, keep asking. Don't give up.
And get your ask together.
Oh, get your asking gear.
Get your asking gear.
Don't you love that?
Oh, I'm still making a meme out of that. I'll give you credit.
Make a meme and send it to us. We'll get it to Rita. She's one of our dearest.
Yeah.
She and I, are founders of the National Speakers Association.
They were founding members, the
Yeah,
two of them
we're
together.
great
She's
friends.
a doll. We love
I
her.
thought her name sounded very, very familiar.
RITA Davenport, Davenport. She is one of the funniest ladies ever. Then she created a little $2 billion company called Arbonne International, which she had me talk to like 17,000 women, and every one of them bought one of the books once we were just launching. So Rita's been a great friend of ours forever.
Yeah,
that is amazing. That's amazing. So let me reiterate. You know, I have a friend that thinks he's this literary genius that said, dude, the word reiterate is not a word. And I'm like, why does everybody use it? He's like, it's a double negative something. So I'm like, he's like, I need to iterate again, not reiterate. I'm like, whatever, dude. Let me reiterate this. So, you put out the opportunity for anyone right now watching this, and this is a today opportunity, or are you putting, what's the time limit?
Well, it needs to be done during the pre-sale period. So the pre-sales end on April 26th or 27th. So right away is better because we need to kind of figure out how many people are coming. So the sooner the better. Yeah.
So if you buy 10 books today, you guys are going to sign what's it called? A book card?
It's a customized book plate for that book. Yeah. To their friends, to them and their friends, whoever they want it addressed to. Yeah. For
all 10 books?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And by the way, I've always said something no other author did. I said, give me, if you got 5 people in the family, I want mom, dad, and the 3 kids. And the reason is, that gets me 5 readers. And as far as I know, no other author's ever done that. I mean, I don't think Mark Twain did or anyone else. So I like to do it.
Wow. And then if they buy 100 copies of the book, we need to put let's put a by the end of February date on that.
Let's do that.
By the way, if it happens faster, we'll come back to your show and we'll give roses metaphorically to everyone, or whatever the wonderful
thing. We'll do shout outs to our participants who are coming, because we're going to have fun together.
Well,
here's the thing. If it happens by the end of February, we could do another show together, because we think the world of you, as you know, and we could have them write a question each that we would gladly go out of our way to answer on your show. We won't talk to anyone else.
That's awesome. So I want everybody that, look, can I make a pitch real quick? I need to say this. Like, there are times in your life where a door is open to you. Everybody's praying, God, please help me. God, please help me. And God opens up the door. You have to put one foot in front of the other. And sometimes that means you have to spend $2,100 on a credit card, go in debt if you have to. I'm sorry, but I mean this. You need to be at this dinner. It will change your life. I promise you. And maybe your life is great. This will make it greater. Just go get 100 copies of this book today so you can be a part of this dinner. I'm excited. Like I'm excited.
Well, the classic story to what you just said is the flood comes in down the Mississippi. As you know, the backwaters of the Mississippi River are backing up, and guy goes on his roof, and the first guy comes and says on a boat and says, "Get in the boat, we'll take you away." He says, "No, God will provide." The second guy comes in the boat. He said, No, I know God will provide. Third guy comes in a helicopter and he said, "God will provide." And the guy was praying, and he gets to heaven, and God says, "What were you doing?" "I sent 3 people to get you, and you
sent 2 boats in a helicopter." Yeah. You kept ignoring it, right? You don't want to.
You cannot ignore that. My wife just put the link in the stream. Thank you, dear.
Awesome.
Thanks, Jill.
Thanks, Jill.
Yeah. So
I want to say, it's not just a dinner, Ken. I mean, we're going to spend the day together, and that's what I'm super excited about, because you will come away from that day feeling a changed person. You will feel so empowered. You will be ready for the rest of this year, and get ready for this decade.
Because we think one of the things I'll talk about that day is the 7 transformational, inevitable trends that are going to do 50 trillion. And the question we ask out throughout is, how are you going to participate? Because, a lot of people were in a great decade of 1890s to 1929. when we had the telephone, we had the automobile, and we had the radio come to pass, and they missed it because they were fixing wagons or whatever they were doing. Right now, we've got the most extraordinary time in human history, the most prosperous, the most healthy, the most happy, the most beneficial. And what you need to know is what, A, the 7 hour that I'm going to teach, and B, the question we'll go throughout that day is one of the little lectures that we'll do on this private day is, how are you going to participate in? And we'll have enough time with each and every one of you so you can figure it out. I have no vested interest in any of it except to make you super successful.
That's incredible. And I know that my buddy Chaz Wilson is buying 300 copies of the book.
Yep.
I have another friend and client. She's on here, Pam Aubrey. She's buying 100 copies. I talked to her about it last night, and she's going to do it. She's just juggling a couple of things. So I know that there's going to be some unbelievable people at this dinner. I can't end the day, spending the day. Like, that's insane. Listen, I just ran a quick calculation, and if everybody's addicted to Starbucks. I love Starbucks myself once in a while. Right.
And we used to go to Buc-ee's all the time, as we call it.
Yeah. If you go out and get Starbucks once or one and a half times a day, that's like $3,000 to $4,000 a year that you're spending for caffeine. And this is $2,100, half of your budget for Starbucks, and it's going to change your life, impact your life forever. Not just like, it's not going to be a rah. You guys aren't going to break out the pom-poms and get everybody excited. You're going to dig deep and help people.
Yep. You got it.
That's what this is about. So listen, you two I could talk to you literally all day, like seriously. And I can't wait. I can't wait to talk to you all day.
Right. We get to do that soon enough, right?
That's right. So everybody go out and get these books. Let's roll. I am so grateful you two took the time. I know you have another deal you have to get ready for. So thank you so much. I'm very, very grateful.
You are most welcome. It was our great pleasure. Thank everybody for being here and participating. We're excited to see you guys.
And we're thankful for your great, commanding, generous heart to us. You've just been superb.
Well, I think the world of you guys, and we're not done. We're just getting started.
Just getting started.
Well, we'll help too. We want everyone to be successful. We just really want it to work for everyone that's watching, listening, and reading.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great decade, so we're ready to make that happen with everybody, hand in hand.
Absolutely. I'm with you. Let's do it. Thank you so much. And don't hang up on me yet if you don't mind, but I am going to end the live stream. Okay. So thank you to everyone who's watched and shared this out and given us hearts and love and gone out. And I know that we're going to get some receipts for the 100 books. I know it. I believe it. It's going to happen.
Thank you in advance, everybody.
Yes. So thank you. And we'll see you guys later. Thank you so much. Hang on real quick for me.